In Malaysia, the Goods and Service Tax (GST) was a multi-type tax applied throughout the supply chain, affecting both production and distribution stages. On the other hand, the Sales and Service Tax (SST) operates as a single-stage tax divide either during the manufacturing processes or when the goods and services are consumed. The shift from GST to SST was intended to lessen the tax impact on consumers and streamline tax procedures for businesses. As an example for GST, the Star story on the introduction of GST in April 2015 provides a real-world example of its impact in Malaysia. The article described how the GST implementation resulted in a large increase in the cost of products and services because the tax was levied at many points of the supply chain, including production, distribution, and retails. This comprehensive taxation resulted in enterprises needing to change their pricing structure to accommodate the increased tax burden, which was ultimately passed on to the consumers. Thus, this is the example for SST. The Age Markets report on the introduction of SST in September 2018 provides an example. The article provided how the SST replaced GST with the goal of lowering the consumer prices and easing the company compliance. It started how the single-stage tax application, whether at manufacturing or consumption, was projected to reduce enterprises and administrative burden by eliminating the need to handle the multi-stage GST. The shift was expected to cut overall consumer prices and simplify the tax filing for businesses.
Good and Service Tax, or known as GST, has their advantages and disadvantages. As for the advantages, GST presents several advantages, which is notably a broad tax base as it encompasses all good and service, thereby reducing tax evasion. By simplifying the tax system and reducing the overall tax burden, GST can lead to lower price, which in turn boosts consumption and stimulates economic growth. Additionally, the broader tax base and improved compliance associated with GST can result in increased tax revenue for the government, further benefiting the economy. As for disadvantages, transitioning to GST can be complex and challenging, requiring changes in accounting system and training for business. Additionally, while GST simplifies tax compliance in the long run, the initial setup and ongoing compliance can be costly for business, especially small and medium enterprise. Furthermore, the introduction of GST can lead to short-term inflationary pressures as business adjust their pricing structures.
Advantage of SST. Firstly, simplicity in a certain context. For small business, SST is often simpler with fewer compliance requirements than GST. Secondly, targeted taxation. SST can be tailored to the specific goods and service, allowing from strategic economic intervention. Thirdly, state autonomy. SST provides states with more control over tax policy, enabling tailored fiscal strategies. Disadvantage of SST. Firstly, cascading effect. SST can result in a cascading tax effect, where tax is levied on the top of tax, leading to the higher price for consumer. Secondly, tax evasion. With a narrower tax base and more loopholes, SST systems are often more susceptible to tax evasions and fraud. Thirdly, inefficiency. SST can create market distortions and inefficiencies as different goods and services may be taxed at a different rate.
Yes, me and my group think that Malaysia should consider reverting to GST to increase tax revenue. This is because higher revenue collection, GST has a broader tax base than SST, covering more goods and services. This means more tax revenue for the government. It will also improve our economic growth. GST reduces inefficiency in the tax system, increasing disposable incomes. This leads to higher consumption and investment, boosting economic growth. For example, the Star magazine reported on June 10, 2024 that Singapore GST system increased their tax revenue by 5% in the first quarter of 2024. This extra revenue helped them to invest in public infrastructure and social programs. By switching back to GST, Malaysia could boost its revenue, fund more public services, and reduce the fiscal deficit. It is a proven system that works well for our neighbours.
Which is better, GST or SST? In our opinion, GST is better. Let's talk about why we think GST is more suitable for Malaysia's economic situation based on the arguments of Raja Kumaran and Professor Emeritus Dr. Barjoya Bodai. Firstly, GST leads to higher revenue collection. Dr. Barjoya Badai noted that Malaysia collected 40 billion ringgit through GST compared to less than 30 billion ringgit under SST. This significant revenue gap shows how well the GST captures additional tax revenue. Furthermore, GST offers a broader tax base covering a wide range of goods and services across the supply chain. Compared to the more restricted SST, this broader scope helps in reducing tax evasion and enhancing overall compliance. Lastly, in an international comparison, Malaysia lags behind Singapore and Thailand, which use GST and VAT system. Singapore's recent GST rate increase widens the revenue gap, indicating that GST can be a more robust revenue collection system.